21 August 2021, and today I'm joined by 3 guests, and I'll start at the top with Mr. Gary Thwala. Mr. Thwala, how are you?
How are you, Mr. Kambakwe? And I hope I find you in good health, and all your viewers and listeners. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Right, and then we'll go to Mr. Den Moyo. Mr. Moyo, how are you?
I'm well, Kambakwe, and thank you for having me, and good evening to listeners, wherever it may be.
And then we're going to end with Mr. Ndlovu. How are you, Mr. Ndlovu?
I'm okay, Mr. Kambakwe, and thank you for allowing me to be in your show. And good evening to your listeners also.
Thank you. So I want us to quickly go through this topic. You saw the meeting that was held with the chiefs in Bulawayo today, Matabeleland chiefs, and the statement that was issued by the government of Zimbabwe at the end of the meeting. I want to start with Mr. Thwala. What is your overall view on the direction of the Gukurahundi processes after today's meeting?
Thank you, Mr. Kambakwe. First of all, may I take this opportunity to remember those whose lives were stolen by Gukurahundi. May their souls rest in peace. And again, we shall remember the orphans of Gukurahundi. We shall remember the victims who had injuries from Gukurahundi and so on. May we encourage them to stay strong and encourage them to still fight on in life as we try and bring closure to this issue. But now, the overall meeting, to me, coming to what was done today with the chiefs, I don't think we're having any progress here, because why is it this issue is always brought up here and there without anything tangible being done? Since Mnangagwa came into power, he said he's a listening president. He mentioned the issue of Gukurahundi. He went on to set up this so-called, I think it's a commission or whatever they call it, but nothing really tangible has been done. And the people that are part of it are actually people that were handpicked by himself. Now, let us acknowledge that Mnangagwa is a chief suspect as a preparator of Gukurahundi. And I don't see him fit to even start a conversation and say, we're trying to bring about justice, we're trying to bring about closure. At the same time, these are the very people who said, let us let bygones be bygones. Then how then does he set up a panel or a commission to deal with the same issue that he claims is gone? He is confused. They are confused. They are wasting our time and insulting our people by poking the very soul wound that they created in us.
Okay, so let's allow Mr. Moyo to give his introductory statement, taking from what Mr. Thwala has said.
Yeah,
the chiefs have taken over, right? The chiefs have taken over the process. Is that answering what Mr. Thwala has said?
Yeah, it is very disappointing to see the way the government is trivializing such an important event in the lives of the people of Matabeleland. This was a genocide. And for it to be treated and thrown around without being given its due process and allowing justice to take place. The fact that you cannot have the government, especially members of that government who are implicated in the same genocide, being the arbitrators now of the same inquiry. This thing needs to be treated with the seriousness it deserves. There needs to be an independent commission of inquiry. There needs to be an investigation done. Victims have to be approached and they need to tell their story. So there is no way we can achieve the objective of reconciliation when this issue is being handled in such a trivial manner as it is. The chiefs themselves are complicit in that they are part of the system. The chiefs right now are beneficiaries of the same system. They are the ones who've received cars and they receive packs from the government. And how do you expect them to be impartial when dealing with this situation? I think the chiefs are the wrong people at all. They are not trained. They are not qualified to handle this inquiry. This inquiry needs trained personnel that will ask the right questions so that at the end of the day, justice can be served. This whole commission needs to lay out what its objectives are, of which to some of us, we need to see justice being done first. Of course, there's the key issue of reparations. There's the issue of apology. If you look at the letter issued by the government, there is no mention at all about the perpetrators. So are they, in other words, saying that let's not talk about the perpetrators, let's just talk about the victims? We need to know what happened. We need to know why Gukurahundi happened. We need to know why the people were massacred. We cannot just jump and say, okay, let's give them birth certificates and exhume bodies, and then everything is done, and the people should be happy that the issue has been addressed. The issue of justice is paramount. The issue of perpetrators coming out and seeking a genuine apology that can be accepted by the victims is the way this thing should be handled, not this way that the government thinks it can just go around the issue and trivialize it in the manner that it has done.
Okay, Mr. Ndlovu, let's pick up from where Mr. Moyo is leaving it off. How would you set up a commission that will satisfy the people of Matabeleland?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kambakwe. I think the first thing which we have to understand is that what was perpetrated in the region of Matabeleland was a social injustice. Therefore, the approach to the entire issue has to be an approach of actually solving an issue which affects the entire region. So if we are to set up a commission, the commission has to be seen to be addressing this social injustice, and it has to be transparent. So the most important thing in this whole thing is that there has to be transparency. So if there is a commission, the commission has to ensure that there is public participation in the process, where the entire country, the entire region, and the entire world is able to actually see the process, so that when the process comes to an end, everyone is satisfied. Now, the issue of saying the process now is going to be spearheaded by chiefs in their own area takes away the issue of transparency. It takes away the issue of actually addressing this as social injustice. You sort of want to put this thing into compartments instead of actually addressing it as an issue which affects the entire nation. So when we talk about reconciliation, we talk about injustices, we are saying there is a conflict which, first of all the parties have to acknowledge that it exists, it is there. And then when we're talking about justice, we are saying there's a perpetrator, there's a victim. Now, these two have to be brought together so that there is reconciliation. You cannot have reconciliation whereby the perpetrator and the victim are not brought together. So in this case, who is the perpetrator, who is the victim? The government perpetrated this injustice, and the victims are the people who suffered in the region of Matabeleland. And a commission has to facilitate that reconciliation. So it has to be set up in a transparent manner, and the people who comprise this commission should be people acceptable to the victims, because justice has to be not only be done, but it has to be seen to be done. that means that people have to actually agree to say, yes, the people who are spearheading this thing or the people who are in the commission are acceptable, and we feel that they ensure that justice is done. So in short, I'm saying there has to be transparency, the commission has to be acceptable, and nothing should be hidden. The perpetrator and the victim have to be brought to the table in a transparent manner, whereby everyone in the country, in the entire world, is going to be given an opportunity to observe.
Okay, Gary, let's go back to you.
Yes, sir.
Let's take over from where Mr. Ndlovu left off. If we were to set up a commission,
yes,
do you have some names of people that would be acceptable to the people of Matabeleland?
Actually, people should be on this panel or on this commission. It is actually the people of Matabeleland, the people from the communities. This genocide, this crime was committed. Now, I do not mean everybody will be part of the commission as all individuals, but people from these communities are the ones who can select people that they trust in handling this case, of which in this case, this is not the case. The suspected perpetrator is the one handpicking people. Now, we must actually pay attention to what is happening on the ground. Mnangagwa even set up this commission. He doesn't mention the jailing of those responsible for the Gukurahundi crime. Secondly, if we were to congregate, me and you, Mr. Kangbakwe, Babu Ndlovu, and Babu Moyo, if we were to sit under a tree and say, we want to try and figure out what can we do to find closure in this case anywhere in Zimbabwe, we will be arrested. We are not allowed to do that. Recently, in May, villagers came together to remember those that were murdered. They know their mass grave, and they went there to erect a tombstone. The same government that claims to have set up a commission that is meant to find closure into this issue went there and destroyed the tombstones. Why are they behaving in that manner? That behavior alone defeats the purpose of the so-called commission. So this commission in itself is an insult or a way of still a continuation of Gukurahundi, but this time they are murdering the voices of the people. It is them who can say anything or congregate about Gukurahundi, but not us, the victims, as we want, as we wish to. Why are they restricting us from doing anything about Gukurahundi but themselves?
Okay, but Gary, who do we put? Because this has been going on for a long time. I want some names of people in Matabeleland that we can say these people will be acceptable, because there's Matabeleland Collective. Matabeleland Collective has got a lot of NGOs or activists. Why is Matabeleland Collective not acceptable?
It is not acceptable because that's a congress of baboons trying to carry out monkey business. Who collected them? Who brought them together? We don't know those people. We don't know the Jenny Williams. So, Mr. Kambwa, may I ask you not to impose that Matabeleland Collective on us? We don't know it. That is what they tell you. We have Matabeleland Collective. We don't know about it. It is Mnangagwa's collective, not a Matabeleland collective. They don't represent our interest. We have never seen them go and meet the victims of Gukurahundi. Otherwise, people who do so, in this case, I may give a real-life example. There is a journalist, a broadcaster by the name Ndlovu, based in Bulawayo, who interviews people, and he gets, there's consequences for him doing that. Why are people not allowed to openly speak about Gukurahundi? But them. So this collective, we don't know about it. We don't want it. It doesn't represent us. It is just something used by Mnangagwa to fool the international community and those that are in Zimbabwe. I'm talking about Zimbabweans themselves, who may want to believe that Mnangagwa is trying to do something. He's trying to bring some closure in as far as the Gukurahundi genocide is concerned, when he is not. He is fooling people. He's trying to portray a good character out of him when we know he's the actual jackal that needs to be tried.
Okay, let's go to Mr. Moyo, and I want to go with the same question. Who would we put, if we say Machiavellian Collective, they cannot do it? Do you have a list of names that we can say we are taking to Idi Mnangagwa to say, these are the people that we want to be in a commission?
Before you continue, Mr. Moyo, I forgot to answer that part on my part, because you asked for people that are my select. We have Ipechulira Zulu, which is not allowed to do anything in as far as this issue is concerned. Their meetings are restricted and dispersed. We have Thwala's Republic Party, which has tried to do something. Their meetings are actually disturbed. They are not allowed to do meetings. Even villagers, village leaders, I'm talking about also, they're not allowed to do anything in as far as that is concerned. But let's start with the Ipechulira Zulu, which has done a sterling job, a great job. Yeah, but we can go on one.
Yeah, my view on this is that this genocide here is known now worldwide. We know that United Nations designated Gukurahundi as a genocide, and therefore, to me, I think for justice to be served, and for this to find closure, it has to be treated using the international standards that have been established, that have dealt with inquiry commissions of this nature. We have, for instance, an example with our neighbors, South Africa. Their Truth and Reconciliation Commission was viewed as being transparent. The parties came together. There were investigations done. And at the end of the day, the perpetrator and the victim looked each other in the eye. The perpetrator apologized, the victim acknowledged, and they moved forward. That brought about real closure in what had transpired in apartheid South Africa. So now, if we look at the situation with Gukurahundi, we need it to be accorded the same standard that has been accorded to other commissions investigating such a similar atrocity. I would think, to me, basically, I don't think the government should even involve itself. They should facilitate, of course, and make sure that the commission is well funded for it to carry out its mandate. But the government should not be the one seen to be spearheading this, because, like we said earlier on, the current president is the #1 perpetrator of the same genocide. We can't expect him to investigate himself. Secondly, we cannot use the chiefs that are currently under his system, that are under his payroll. That, again, is also an issue with some of us. We need an independent commission. We need somebody who is non-partisan, who's impartial, who can be, it can be a man of clergy, somebody who's a pastor or a respected, that's what the South Africans did. We had Desmond Tutu there being the one who headed that commission. We need somebody of that stature. If not, then we need somebody, maybe another former African leader that can be trusted by the people, or somebody within the region that is the respect of the people. Because at the end of the day, the victims have to be comfortable enough to come out and speak freely and not feel intimidated. Because if you are told to go and talk to your chief, depending on what is going on between him and he's a beneficiary, he's already got a 4x4 parked in his yard that was given by the government. And therefore, the people are going to be fearful to actually express what transpired and what they know about the situation. So the transparency will go out the window. it will weaken whatever outcome comes out of this situation, because the people need to be able to freely talk to somebody they believe is going to listen to them, and that justice will be served at the end of the day.
Okay, I think my question is still not answered. We want the people of Matabeleland are making this demand that they want an independent commission. There is already an existing National Peace and Reconciliation Commission. So when you visit Mnangagwa and you say, Mnangagwa, what you have done is not correct, you need to have a proposal for him. And my question is, who do we put in to go into that commission? Do we have agreement in Matabeleland, or there's division among the people of Matabeleland in terms of who should represent them?
The problem, Kambagwe, is that both people that have been mentioned so far, whether you talk of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that has been set up by Mnangagwa, and you talk of the chiefs, all these people are being appointed by this very same person that is the #1 perpetrator in this situation. I am saying Mnangagwa should recuse himself completely from these proceedings. Allow an independent commission that is not tainted by him. If he wants genuine closure to this issue and reconciliation at the end of the day, then he should leave it to an independent commission that is not biased, an independent commission that is going to listen to both sides. He needs to also be able himself, if called by that commission to testify, he should be able to testify truthfully about his role in Gukurahundi and what transpired. That and that alone is what's going to get this to closure, because without that, then there is so much covering up and so much vagueness. There's no transparency, and therefore I don't see how this situation will come to closure.
Let me help Kambake here on that. I think I did say a statement, maybe you didn't understand it, but I'm going to break it up for you. Mr. Kambake, in this region, and this is part and parcel of our culture, we don't have this mentality, this chete mentality, whereby we have somebody that we say, so and so will do this, so and so will do that. We have what you call democracy. That's what we say in English, but we are so organized such that the answer you are trying to squeeze out of us, we are not going to get it, because we don't have the answer. The people have the answer. What has to happen on ground is that the space, the environment should be open for people to congregate, talk about anything they want to talk about in their communities. And then the people that you want us to mention their names would come out of that. People will choose and say, okay, so and so can go and represent us, so and so can be part of this commission. So you may ask that question 20 times. You are never going to get that answer now. We can only suggest names. And those names that we can suggest are Ndlovu, are Umol, are Thwala. It could be anybody, any village dweller from Menkai, from Echolocho. So you are not going to get that name. That is why the very same government does not allow Ndebeles to revive the way they used to live. Now, he has turned down the installation of a king. He's trying to create what we call Umhlambiga Zelusile. We don't allow that. In our culture, we have a leadership structure from village level. Because, let me tell you, Mr. Kambakwe, a flock of sheep that doesn't have a shepherd easily get attacked by the jackal. In this case now, the jackal is avoiding any form of leadership, which is the shepherd. So he is doing it deliberately, because when we are not organized, we don't have leadership, we are actually exposed to any attacks. So you are not—
Okay, Mr. Ndlovu, is that not the problem, what Gary is saying now? That Matabeleland does not have proper leadership in terms of the issues they are raising, but they are coming from many different directions. And this is causing the problem that we have now.
Leadership
Okay.
is there, Mr. Kambakwe. Leadership is there. It is not allowed to play their role. Look at what is happening to Ondis. Look at what is happening to the boys who, when last time, I think it's 2 years back, Mnangagwa came talking about this very same Gukurahundi. A young man stood up and asked, what are you saying about my parents that were murdered? I don't even have a birth certificate. That boy was jailed. You went to come in prison. We have leadership. It's not allowed to play their role.
Okay, Mr. Kamba, can I come in?
Yeah, please.
Yes, I just wanted to say what Mr. Thwala has pointed out, that we have leadership. I think leadership has to be given a platform to come out and exert themselves and provide the leadership which is required. There are a lot of people who are capable in multivalent who can actually be members of this commission. What has to happen is that the government has to, I'll say, give the people the platform to express themselves and the permission to actually elect the people who are supposed to be in the commission. If names are supposed to be forwarded, they have to be forwarded to, just like what they did with this current one, which is unacceptable. Names were forwarded to Parliament, and then Parliament did their process, because it's a Chapter 12, I'll say, commission or institution. So if we are to follow those processes, in the first place, the list of names have to come from the region and from the people. And if the president is to actually participate in the process at all, it has to be in the process of electing from the names which are provided by the people already. Because I would like to believe there's a criteria or qualification to say a person has to have experience maybe in some reconciliation of some sort, so that they can facilitate the process. So let those names come from the people. And then if the president is to participate at all, he has to elect from that particular list. Now, on this platform, we cannot give the names, but the names are there. Once the process is open, the names will come up. I think that's my input on that.
I want to stay with you. Mr. Ndlovu.
Yeah.
In the beginning, all the Machiavellian groups were united. They were called to State House by President Mnangagwa. Before there was Machiavellian collective, all the groups were there. But there was a disagreement. Do you think there will be agreement in Machiavellian between the groups to say these are the people we want, or the fighting will continue in the division?
You know, the issue of divide and rule is a problem, because among those groups, there are some maybe groups, fine, I cannot actually really say this particular group, who might be having a different agenda. But if the president takes himself out of actually convening this particular grouping and let the people do their own, then they will reconcile and as a group and come up with one position. And the position is actually going to show that people can work together, they can, let's say, deal with whatever misunderstanding they have, and at the end of the day, come up with one position. But the involvement of the president being the convener of this particular gathering is problematic itself. So he has to take himself out of that process, but allow people to gather and allow people to ventilate the issues and come up with a common position, and then take that position to him. And then he can take it from there. And along the entire process, the people who will be on the driving seat are the people of the region. And these conveners should be actually people also who are acceptable, not people who are being used. So the issue of conflict, okay, I understand it might have been there, but you might find that amongst that group, there were people who have different agendas.
Okay, Gary, I want to go back to you, and we're just about to come to an end now.
Right.
Do you see the difficulty that the government of Zimbabwe has got? That the people in Matabele know what they want, but they don't know how to move forward. Am I mistaken here?
You might be a little bit mistaken. They know how to go forward. But now, the middle name of Emerson Mnangagwa is Emerson Mr. Division Mnangagwa. They are using the divide and rule tactic. If you look at those people that are part of the so-called Matabeleland collective, these are people aligned to Mnangagwa. They are getting something. There's some sort of benefit from Mnangagwa, which is the case even in Mashonaland, you know, with political parties. We know a lot of them actually failed because of the infiltration of Mnangagwa and his Zanuism, dividing people. There's a lot of people that we know that are very vocal, but check them properly, you will find out they are all linked to ZANU. So we have a problem there. We have a problem there. And to them in general, this, if you remember very well, Opet could say it recently, Gukurahundi is a tiny issue. These are heartless people. We're talking about the killing of thousands of people here, but to them, it's a tiny issue. This is somebody also aligned to the so-called government.
Okay. Mr. Moyo, let's take it from where Thwala has left it. If you were Idi Mnangagwa right now, and according to the laws that are there in Zimbabwe, can a commission come up without the president?
In this case, there has to be a way to go around the fact that this very president himself is compromised. He was there during Gukurahundi. He is a perpetrator himself. And obviously, the only best way for this commission to be genuine in the eyes of the victims and the eyes of the world is for him not to play a part at all. It's for him not, he can commission it in his, as the president and sign it off if that's what the constitution demands. But he should not be seen being active in being the convener, in being the one that determines who's going to be in that commission and how, and the makeup of that commission. Because then if that's the case, this whole thing will look like amandlwane. It will look like there is no seriousness on the part of the government to find a lasting solution to this very important and serious issue. If I were him, I would certainly move myself away from the process and let an independent commission run the investigation and be the one that calls witnesses and does the investigation. And if ED himself is called to testify at that commission, he should be able to avail himself because he was there. He has more information than all of us here combined as to why Gukurahundi in the first place happened. What was the driver behind that to kill so many innocent people? And if he can come out and be honest about it and seek an apology, I am sure the people of Matabeleland would forgive him as long as he's sincere and genuine.
Okay, Mr. Ndlovu, if this is the feeling in Matabeleland, that you don't want the current president, Idi Mnangagwa, to be part of the process of Gukurahundi, why do the people in Matabeleland not start a process, these groups that are there, that are opposed to Matabeleland Collective, why don't they start a process which is independent? What is stopping this?
I think we have to understand why the current commission exists. It exists because the Constitution provides for its existence. So the people of Matabeleland, they cannot start something which is outside the provisions of the Constitution. They have to work within the Constitution of the country so that whatever comes out of the process is binding to everyone. If we're to say, let's do this process outside the constitution of the country, where will that commission get the powers to subpoena people? Because just like Mr. Moyo is saying, at one point or another, we might find that the very perpetrators who are still in power might need to come and account before the commission. So the commission has to be given the powers, and those powers derive from the constitution. Therefore, people of Matabele cannot just have some gatherings outside the provisions of the constitution. What we are simply saying is that, can the people of Matabele be given the platform? The victims, can they be given the platform to drive this? And by driving, we mean choose the people who are going to comprise the commission. And then those names are forwarded. And then if the president is to choose, the commission has to choose from the names which are already screened, if I might use the word, by the region. That the region will come together and then discuss, come up with the names, forward those names, and then a commission comes out of that. And then that commission has to operate within the provisions of the constitution and be given all the powers it's supposed to have to actually ensure that the process is legit, is transparent, brings the victims and the perpetrators together, and then is able to actually extract the truth from the perpetrators. In the absence of that, it will be just a child's play. So we're not playing games. It has to be a serious thing. So let's work within the confines of the law as provided by the Constitution. I don't see anything difficult by just asking for a commission which is acceptable. Because for justice to be there, the commission has to be acceptable. You cannot impose a commission which people are rejecting. And then after imposing that commission, you say now this thing has been spearheaded by the chiefs who don't have the capacity. And under whose provision are those chiefs? Under which constitution are those chiefs given those powers to drive this thing? So we have to look at operating within the laws to ensure that this thing is within the provisions of the constitution and the outcomes are within the provisions of the constitutions. And it can be enforced in all those things. So we cannot, in short, we cannot operate outside the constitution, Mr. Kambako. We cannot.
Okay, now let's wrap this up. And I want to summarize for the benefit of everyone who's listening. Then I'll give you gents each a chance to say your last word. So firstly, everyone here in the panel said they're not happy with what has happened today. The people of Matabeleland has not been given the platform to express themselves. And the feeling in Matabeleland is that the current president, Mnangagwa, must not be part of this Gukurahundi process. He must only commission or set up the commission, but then he must be out of it. The chiefs, they must not run the process. It must be run by an independent commission. And Matabeleland Collective is not representing the broader Matabeleland population. Is there anything else you want to say? Let's start with I want to start with you, Mr. Ndlovu. Then I want to go anti-clockwise this time and end with Mr. Thwala.
Okay. Thank you, Kambako. I think what I'll say in conclusion is actually there has to be a will to bring finality to this issue. And when that is being done, it shouldn't just be lip service, but it has to be a genuine effort, not just an issue of trying to brush it away, that we have to be seen to be doing something about it. This is a serious thing where people actually lost their lives, where people were traumatized, were tortured, and people suffered. So their children don't have birth certificates, and all those things. It's quite a lot. So it cannot be approached with this, I'll say, carelessness. There has to be seriousness, and the feelings of the people on the ground should be taken into consideration. So my closing remarks is there have to be a revisit to the commission. I think that's the starting point. And the revisit to the commission means allow the people of the region to forward names of the people who they would prefer to represent them in the commission. I think that is the starting point for me. Thank you very much, Kamba.
Okay, Mr. Moyo.
Yeah, I believe strongly that if this commission has to give us the intended results that will be acceptable to the victims and to the region and to the world, then it has to be accorded the international standards of arbitration, because it is the only way for most people for this thing to be seen to have been genuine, and that there is a genuine, truthful willingness by the perpetrators to seek forgiveness, to seek reconciliation. You cannot force that down people's throats. You cannot say take it or leave it, because this is all we have to offer. I think the perpetrators, in this case the government, has to be genuine in wanting to find a lasting, peaceful solution to this problem. And the only way, in my view, is if it is accorded the same level of scrutiny and follows the international guidelines, the international standards of arbitration, in order for it to be genuine and acceptable to the people.
Mr. Kambakwe, before I express my point, I want us to remind everybody that when we talk of Gukurahundi, there is no way we say it only affected the Ndebele people. At the same time, we shouldn't shy away from the fact that, yes, Gukurahundi was a tribal thing. It targeted the Ndebele, though there's a lot of other people that fell victims to Gukurahundi. Therefore, I want to say and remind other people, and maybe correct them, those who feel that when we talk of Gukurahundi, we only consider the Ndebeles only as victims. There's a lot of Tonga people, there's a lot of Shona people that actually were victims of that genocide. And we think about them though. And to support that statement, or to help them actually figure this out, even Mnangagwa himself, in whatever he is doing, he set up a commission and he called it the Matabeleland Collective. Why specifically Matabeleland? Because he knows that his genocide targeted those people, despite the fact that, yes, some of our people from the East, which actually identify as the Shona, were victims too. We actually acknowledge and recognize that. Now, coming to this commission, Kambakwe, I would say I don't see anything positive coming from it, because President Mnangagwa actually pronounced or called the Ndebele people cockroaches. He has never apologized. We have never seen any acknowledgement of what was done here. So therefore, what positive thing can we expect from people who are so arrogant? They are even failing to pronounce stuff they did, and that was captured in video. There's nothing we can expect from this commission. It is an insult or a cover-up or a waste of time, like I said before, to pretend as if they are doing something. As a matter of fact, I might be tempted to believe that they're actually coming to silence people and say, you don't talk about Gukurahundi, only us. They are covering up their mess. He is disrespecting us, and he is taking advantage of these poor chiefs that he has control over and bribes them with mere pickup trucks.
Okay, I would have wanted us to continue this discussion, but I know that we've way past our 30 minutes allocated. So what I suggest is, I know that this process is ongoing. Can we come back after a few weeks and see where this process would have been because the chiefs have obviously been asked to go to their particular areas and deal with the issues. Maybe we should come back after about 2 to 3 weeks and see where the situation is.
We definitely will do that. And one thing we need to actually not forget to mention at this point is the response of what Mnangagwa said concerning the Zambia elections. He actually declared nothing of that nature may happen in Zimbabwe. Why is he clinging on to power? Why is he afraid to lose power if people choose not to choose him and choose somebody else? Why is he imposing himself on us? Why is he afraid of democracy?
Yeah, Kambakwe, one thing I want to point out on how this whole thing with the chiefs is flawed. Because if he's saying that each chief now is responsible for people within his area to come and say whatever they want to say to them, and the chief decides what kind of reparation should be given to that person. Can you imagine? Now look at, for instance, the people of Ntabazinduna. Who are they going to go to since Chief Kaisa was removed? He was removed from his chieftainship because of his disagreements with the government. So who are they going to go to start off with? Secondly, what if one chief says, okay, 2 goats are enough as a reparation, go home. And the other chief from another area says, no, 5 cows, 5 cattle is enough reparation for you. Can you see the discrepancy that this whole thing is going to cause? There will be chaos. We need it to be treated with the seriousness that it deserves so that there's uniform justice across the board.
Okay, gents, I think let's bring this to an end. But the feeling that I get is that this is a very complicated topic, and it will take a very long time to get resolved. And I'm very sorry that Vixon just joined us here before we left, before we finished. Vixon, do you want to say anything before we go?
Yes, thank you. I'm just trying to pick up because I'm just getting in, coming out. But I will be following as we go on now.
I'm sorry you found us finished. We actually concluded. So I'll invite you next time to come and join this discussion. This issue is very, very important. And I know that everyone in this panel has been talking about this for a very, very long time. Let us see what happens, and then let's check this up. Senator Khaliphani Phugeni was supposed to be here, but because he's traveling, he was not able to join. But he's going to join this panel in 2 weeks' time, and we'll take it from there. Thank you very much, gents. I'm very sorry, Vixon, that you found us almost done.
Thank you, Mr. Kambakwe.
Thank you, Mr. Kambakwe.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Uyo uko kuno abo bano